Hey, it's Chase from Sorcery Contested Realm, and in our Community Spotlight series, we're going to be focusing on the faces and places that make up the realm itself. So I'm really excited to be speaking with a TCG veteran who brings with us a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we've of course got Dan from OpenBoosters. Dan, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely glad to be here. It's going to be fun. I like opening packs. Sorcery is no different. It's got booster packs in there so I can open them. Now, if there wasn't any booster packs in there, then I'd probably be disappointed.
Oh, yeah, it'd be a little off-brand, right?
Yeah, exactly. It'd be Munchkin. Here's a cellophane case.
So, folks come from
There we go.
TCGs.
Munchkin.
Oh my gosh.
Signed Will Wheaton. There we go.
Oh wow. Okay. So, folks come to TCGs from all different backgrounds. It's always great to have someone with kind of your context and someone who is not only an avid fan, but also a collector as well. But, this whole route of how you got to where you are now, where you've got a really successful channel, you're opening boosters online, on your successful YouTube channel. But how did you first get into TCGs? Like, what was the first thing that pulled you in?
All right. Well, it was actually my friends at college. So I started college freshman year, 1993.
We don't need not that long ago. We don't
not that long ago. But I'm sitting there. I come in. They have these cards. They're original alpha, but I didn't know what alpha was at that time. They actually just had an extra deck, handed it to me. I was able to play. And we were having a good time. So I went to the comic book store to buy some of these Magic the Gathering cards, and they didn't have any. So for the next month and a half, I had to borrow people's cards. And suddenly Beta showed up. And I was like, yes, here we go. Magic the Gathering is here. So I buy it. I get one starter and head back to the dorm. And I open my Time Twister right out there. And so I have that, and I think I'm supposed to have enough cards, and there is no way this is enough cards because I don't even have enough land. I only have like 3 blue spells. I'm like, what happened here? But yeah, and then I started getting more and more cards and more into the actual game aspect. I finally learned that counter spells actually rock and roll, and taking people's creatures and hitting them with it is awesome.
You're one of those players.
Yeah, but man, Royal Assassin was king dingaling, man, and so was Sheevan Dragon, right? So I went ahead and got rid of this stupid flower thing that only gave me 3 mana anyways for a Royal Assassin. Yeah! Who needs flowers? Royal.
So, TCGs compared to maybe there's a lot of games out there, right? And we are in the golden age of gaming in many ways. But what do you think is actually the appeal of trading card games? What speaks to you so much about this?
Okay, well, there is a community aspect for trading card games, but people have always been attracted to games in general, like board games and that kind of stuff. And so the natural transition from, let's just say it's baseball, it's a collectible card, it has information on it. It doesn't really do anything, right?
Right.
But I'm pretty sure there will be a baseball trading card game in the future at some point.
Mm.
But when you go from that to a magical realm like Magic with cards and that kind of stuff, or even to Flesh and Blood or to Sorcery, it's about the collection and about the game itself. So you have the best of a combined world, right? Mm-hmm. So any TCG is going to give that kind of oomph, right? So you can actually do stuff with the cards as opposed to not doing anything. It's just there on a shelf,
So it's like the game aspect of it, being actually able to play with your items there.
Correct. You can play with your Mickey Mantle instead of not playing with your Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, man. I feel like when I first got into TCGs, I just spent so much time like looking at the art. Like initially, I got a bunch of stuff. There was like my story is maybe not too dissimilar to yours. A friend came over. I think it was like 1995 though, and from California. This new kid moved into town. He had these cool cards, and we're like, what is all this stuff? When I first picked up my first stuff, I just spent so much time just looking at the art and like daydreaming about like what is going on, like what is the story behind these things, and then being able to play a game with it on top of it was just like icing on the cake. I don't know. So it's a cool thing about TCGs for me is it's like it makes that social experience of getting to sit down with people and like create these stories and
but not only that. you get all these extra little memories too. Like when we were playing for Auntie, though, right? So I took my friend's only demonic attorney.
Oh,
All right. No, I'm sorry, demonic tutor.
tutor,
And it
yeah.
was alpha, right? So I went, dude, I can't take this card. He's like, no, it's perfectly fine. No, it's not. It's your only one. No. That's how we play the game. So I'm keeping it. A couple of years go by, he has the revised version, but this is alpha. Now we have a title for it. It's called alpha. And I'm like,
Right.
dude, do you want your demonic tutor back? He's like, no. You won that a long time ago. We don't play for Auntie anymore. I know. I should give it back. And he goes, no. Just keep it. So I had it slabbed from PSA, showed it to him and said, do you want it back now? And he goes, no. That was totally a long time ago. I still have it. I told him I'd never sell it. It's still in my collection. I mean, these kind of memories are kind of priceless. My cousin Bob told me that the common bat, right, from Legends is an Uber Kingaling drop. And I told him that is the dumbest thing ever I've heard, because all you have to do is pump mana into it. You swing for 2, right? Yeah. He killed me with the dang thing. I could get rid of all his other stuff, but I couldn't get rid of the stupid bat.
So, you get hooked, right? You get hit with the TCG fever. You got a great community. You're playing with people. And then at some point you decided to transition into making content and OpenBoosters.com. What was the genesis of all that?
Okay. So that transition is a little different. I had accidentally had packs and revised boxes and legend boxes in a box, but I didn't know because I labeled it wrong. It was labeled dishes, right? So I didn't actually know, and I was taking it from apartment to apartment. But eventually, I got married, had kids. That box still existed.
But you didn't use any dishes in the time that you.
Okay, you're a bachelor. Where do you eat?
Okay, fair enough. You got one plate in your.
Okay, I would go and get Taco Bell, the 10-bean burritos, and then I would bring them home, and that would be my meal. I like to live cheap. It was also bread, 1 slice of meat, and cheese for a while. So I like to live as cheaply as I possibly could. Weekend was 10-bean burritos. You're good. All right. So everything just got used up. But yeah, I actually kicked the box and put dents inside my revised box that's on the inside. And I kicked it hard because I was mad because it was so freaking heavy. But I didn't connect the two that this is actually not Tupperware, because I'm kind of stupid. I don't know. It's just a thing. Oh. So eventually I had to clean out the garage because we had kids coming in Eli was being born, and apparently you have to exit all your stuff and throw it out. So I opened this and I went, oh my God, all these loose packs are in here. Hey, here's unlimited. Hey, here's a few Arabian Nights packs. Oh my God. And revised boxes. Where'd this dent come from? Oh yeah, I remember that. So I started opening up by myself. All right. And I started cracking it by myself. And then one of my friends came over and I said, hey, do you want to crack this alpha starter that I have? And so I started to crack it. And he said, no, what are you doing? You can't crack that. You got to film that stuff. And I said, I don't want to film because I don't want to deal with all the trolls and stuff like that. Right. I'm not a good, stable person. I'm kind of goofy. I talk weird. I can't read cards correctly.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, exactly. So she's like, no, this is something people would want to see. So I went ahead. I made my first video in 2014. And if you watch the first ones, I have these big, fluffy white gloves. Mm-hmm. And I'm being as serious as I possibly can. Because I didn't want anyone to say anything weird, because I'm fragile. I'm a little snowflake out there. So it's going to be crash my ego. Boom. Aww. I'm done. I'm so sad now. Like when I cracked the Alpha Lotus and people were like actually telling me that I should die, I almost stopped the channel at that point. Mm-hmm. I came very close to that because I was getting streamlined when I should die, which didn't make any sense. Because if you go back to their YouTube channels, they were saying they were Christian groups. So apparently Christians do not like black flowers. It's just one of those things.
Well, that's kind of as we go through starting up your channel here, like, have you felt like the way the community interacts with you has changed over time with you making content? Or have you just felt like you've got better at navigating, that particular element?
I've gotten better at not listening to people saying anything. You kind of just eventually become immune to that,
Yeah.
because I'll have a follower, right? He'll be like, wow, you're opening all these products. This is amazing. And then one day they flip gears and say, wow, you're a complete sellout. And
Gotcha.
now you're trying to sell stuff to us. That's terrible.
Right.
You know? So I've kind of stopped worrying about it. I had one person for like almost 3 years, I guess. And he watched every single one of my episodes to tell me how terrible I was.
Oh,
And he stopped watching after I said, you are actually my number one fan because you've watched every episode and
Yeah.
commented every single one. And that was the last I heard from him.
So, so then taking on making videos, right? It added like this other component, right? And it sounds like, there's, I'm assuming there's a big positive to it as well. But you mentioned kind of some of the negatives. What's the kind of the upside of doing that?
The upside is I met a bunch of people that are really excited about the game. They're actually really excited about all TCG games, right? And I meet all these different variety of people, like Ranch from Canada, and he's like awesome and that kind of stuff. Alberto, and he's always making positive comments on everything I do. I could literally open any product. I could probably open up toilet paper, and he would say how great it was.
Hey, a couple years ago, that would have been
awesome.
That would have been a thing.
Yeah, actually,
pandemic,
right? The pandemic. Yeah. But yeah, I meet so many great people on the channels themselves. Drunk MTG always has a great thing to say. He'll insult me during a live stream, but it's all in humor. And I mean, all these things are like little. You see the world through a different perspective. It's not really all the negative anymore. So you see all the genuine comments that are actually out there that are fantastic. The negative stuff is happened, it's there, and that's why I can actually ignore it now, because I know I have these whole bunch of nice people that are actually in there. And it's just crazy how good these people are. And then when you go to the actual events and that kind of stuff, and you meet them and interact with them, it's mind-boggling, right? I have people talking to me about the first videos ever made, or they'll see that I actually played poker, and they'll say, hey, I saw you on this poker thing, and I didn't even know you played poker. Or some people go, hey, I know you from Atlas Earth, but I watch your channel now, and all this other kind of stuff. It's so crazy.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, so, how has all of that then, did that change your like relationship with the card games in general? Like does making content change the way you think about games?
It does. If I open something, I really have to know the material. Like when I open Flesh and Blood, I don't know as much about the game as I should. All right. I know the collectible aspect. And so that kind of irritates a lot of people. However, they still want me to open it, but they don't want me to feel bad for not opening it up in a way they would really want me to be overjoyed and excited about. But my Magic the Gathering, I open it with a little more enthusiasm because it's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if I could really get a bunch of people to just play the game of the Flesh and Blood series, I would actually be doing a lot better. Now, my hopes with Sorcery, though, is the different aspect of this game, because the dimensional space that you get to work with and the mapping, and this is actually a lot of intriguingness, because it has to carry the elements of a regular card game that we're all familiar with, mana and how you bring it up, but it has the board space of like chess, and you can actually move your pieces around the board to get to what you want. And it's got you remember the grid games of Nintendo, like Romance of the Three Kingdoms?
Yep.
You actually have the levels themselves. So like if you're playing 3D chess, you could actually bury a creature. And if the creature has the ability to be buried, it's still alive. But you can actually destroy things on the plane, which is just crazy. There's so many different aspects to it for gameplay. And land placement is going to be critical to actually win the freaking game.
Yeah.
And so to me, this has got huge potential here. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I'm actually sorting cards of Sorcery currently, just so I can trying to get a baseline of what all you can actually do with it. Right. It is actually very intensifying of a game like that, and I'm very intrigued by that. So I've already decided that I'm going to send some to my cousin Bob, and he's actually going to come down, and we are actually going to play sorcery. And it's going to be very. I'm very enthusiastic about it.
Now you just got to be very careful not to do any ante against you, because it sounds like you can.
Oh yeah, I could totally take all his cards.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously I are a little biased here, but it's, that's one of the things that speaks to me as well. And I think Eric and the team has done such a great job capturing, like, there's a sort of nostalgia and old school feel. And even you're talking about like referencing older properties, from the 90s that have maybe a grid-based style, but having that new layers and new sensibilities on top of it. It's kind of like trying to walk that sweet spot. But it's just fun to hear you get excited about it, because that's how I feel too. It's like been really fun having my friends start to get into it, and that start to snowball.
Well, Edwin and I actually opened a sorcery in one of our videos, and you can see his enthusiasm as he's pulling some of these cards out, and he's like getting excited. Go, oh, I know what this is referring to, and that kind of stuff. So even just opening a box spoke to him, just the box itself, and that's incredible.
Well, so you've had a lot of experience opening boosters and opening boxes of cards. Like, is there anything that stood out to you when you were opening sorcery product?
Okay, when I opened it, if you're talking about just the physical aspect of the cards, the cold foils have this pushed up lettering on their actual foils. That actually was really cool looking. But then when I flipped it over, you can actually see the full art. So there's more art underneath the text box on the back. So you get the complete artwork as opposed to anything else. And that's one of the physical aspects that I was like, okay, they did that really well. Now, in one of the videos, I actually do say, I wish they foiled the back. That's technically still true. I wish they foiled the back, even though I know, I get it. It looks really cool the other way, but still, I wanted to foil back.
Fair enough. I mean, it always leaves you wanting more, right?
Yes.
So for people who are maybe new to sorcery that are just tuning in, so in our card system, we have 4 tiers of rarity, right? So there's uniques, which a unique, you can have one of that unique in your deck. So you could have many uniques, but you can only have one of that specific unique in your deck, if that's making sense.
That does make sense.
You can have 2 of each elite. You can have 3 of exceptionals.
You can only have 2?
You can only have 2. And then
I didn't know that.
3 of exceptionals, and then you can have 4 ordinaries, right?
Okay.
And so there's a way that you can there's another tier of kind of game balance then too, where we can have these really cool, unique cards that are very powerful, very flavorful, that could maybe flood the entire realm with water or do, these kind of catastrophic effects. And that's somewhat get then balanced within the game system of through either the cost of the unit of the magics or minion, or the number you have in your deck, right?
Yep.
And so we've had a lot of fun with that. But one of the things that's been really interesting, kind of seeing how people react to, is that you're someone who's not just someone who enjoys playing TCGs, but you're also a collector, right? And so for sorcery, one of the maybe interesting things might be that the rarity is an indication of collectibility, certainly, also gameplay, but not necessarily. We're not trying to have an impact on the quality of the card, right? The team really has strongly felt that less rare cards are played more. And so, why should we kind of compromise on the art or the vision of those? As a collector, what do you think about that? And taking kind of the gameplay mentality off there, as a collector, what have been your thoughts on sorcery, maybe writ large?
Okay, so the artwork is fantastic on all the cards. I mean, they're actually very detailed and that kind of stuff. And I like the details that they place in all the comments and that kind of stuff. I like that kind of aspect, because you don't want to see just, oh, this is another chintzy card. And you just, I know this is common because it's crap. All right, we move on. Right. So it's not like that. They actually put the work into it, and the work should always be there. That should be a given with any game set. You're not going to get the letter A from Legends, right? The destruction glyph. As everyone kind of, it's just the letter A on a card, and it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so yes, I do like the collectibility of having a set of commons that actually look nice. And they haven't done anything different between the foil and the, if you take the unique foil and you take the common foil, put them side by side, if you didn't have the words on them, you still wouldn't know which one is the actual rare of the cards, for sure.
Yeah. And you've drawn. I've watched many of your sorcery unboostings, I guess.
Yes, unboostings.
And you've drawn some really nice foils, and it's fun to see people's comments and see how different people prioritize certain cards. Because, like, you know, on the art side, there's a lot of like ordinary cards that I'm just like, I want that in foil, like, you know.
Oh yeah. There's tons of those, right? Because you'll want those in foils because you need a foil set. That's
okay. Is that what you're working towards? Have you been working towards a foil set?
Yeah, that's why you'll hear me say, "Oh, I don't have this in this foil," but now I do. That's what I say in most of my videos.
If we ever get a game in person now, I want to wait until you have like a glowing foil deck or something. Will you bust those out to play? Or are those going to be, you know?
No. Those are going to be slabbed as soon as I can. All right, and then they'll be pretty and they'll be nice and they'll be forever because I like graded cards. I'm sure. Let's see. I mean, you see the graded cards behind me, but I literally have tons of graded cards, right? And I grade commons as well. I have time for commons. Unlike some people, I do grade all my commons as well. And that's because you can't have a set without your commons.
Makes sense. Well, you know, we've actually had a lot of people that have shown interest in sorcery that are veterans of, you know, other TCGs, but we also had a lot of new people that are just coming to it, or maybe coming to it from wargaming or board games that are kind of interested by the way it plays out on the table. And so for a lot of them, collecting is a new thing, right? And not necessarily collecting, you know, they might collect miniatures or other things, but collecting cards. If someone was just getting into collecting cards, what's some information that you as a collector maybe think that they should know, or you know, how it would help them maybe take their first baby steps? Maybe they've never had a card graded. Like what should they do if they want to become a collector of cards?
Graded cards?
Yeah.
All right. So if you actually really want to start out with cards, you need to actually understand that the higher the mint quality, the better, right? Mm-hmm. So if you actually open something, it still might not be a mint quality card. It might not be a 10, right? Because it can actually have scuffing inside the pack. It can actually be cut where there's too much paper on one side. It can actually have edging issues. So you can't guarantee that a card that you get out of a booster will grade even really well. So buying a box and expecting everything to be graded like tons is not going to be your category of where you go. If you want high-end cards, if you want a high-end card, you're probably going to have to either A, buy it from a store and pay the exorbitant cost, or B, go to the vendors and examine the cards in hand by yourself. And then they will always price it down into the near mint range. And then you can actually hold the card in your hand and examine every edge and corner to make sure everything is perfect, right? It's always good to have a chronometer so you can actually measure the centering of issues and to make sure that the card is perfectly centered, because that's kind of some of the aspects of it. If you actually really want to get into graded cards. Now, if you just want an 8, that's pretty much okay. You can actually go and buy a box and you'll probably have some and correct those and then submit them. And then you're fine because you're just going for the 8 set. And you'll have some that grade really high, maybe get a 9.5. Or if you push beyond the barrier and you actually get that Black Label 10, any box is fantastic.
But you have to, when you're opening your boosters, do you have to be like wearing gloves and like how much do you need to be careful with that sort of stuff?
This is the reason I wear gloves. So I get this question a lot because they're like, oh my gosh, why do you wear gloves? The reason for the big white fluffy gloves is because before I was even filming YouTube, I told you I was opening packs by myself.
Yeah.
Well, I did. I opened up a Mox Emerald and I shoved my fingernail through the card. Because I got excited and I squeezed.
Oh no.
Okay. So you put on the gloves so you can contain your excitement.
Nail clippers, gloves.
No. I had trimmed my nails that day. So it was like
Yeah, just
take
like
your
the
fingers.
adrenaline spikes.
Yeah, take your fingers and you pinch your fingers. You still feel nail,
Ah,
no matter what,
gotcha.
unless you bite your nail all the way back.
Yeah,
And
just yeah,
I don't
like,
bite my nails, so
fair enough. This is the hobby for nail biters. Then, if you're a nail biter, this is your
exactly.
time to shine.
Just put on the latex gloves and then you can open it up.
Okay.
But really, the oils on your skin aren't going to damage the cards, that kind of stuff. That's kind of a thing that kind of propagated out
Mhm.
since I started opening boosters. You'll see a lot of people wearing gloves on video or letting gloves on anything, but it's really to contain my excitement. When I saw that the Black Willows video, you see I squeezed the card that I let go
Yeah.
because I'm like, it's here. If I wasn't wearing gloves, I guarantee I would have put dents on that card.
Okay, good to know. And then, so say you are collecting your cards, and maybe you're very serious about it. Maybe this is your first time. What do you recommend for like displaying or storing cards that you feel like have value?
Well,
Are there
there
like
are.
do's and don'ts? Like,
I don't
keep.
recommend carrying around cards in your house that are over like 10, 20 grand. Don't display those because even if you have friends come over, just
Hmm.
bring the card to the house and put it up then. And
Mm,
then when they leave the house, put it back in the vault.
hmm.
All right, little bank vault and that kind of stuff. So if you have expensive stuff, don't keep it in your house. For one, your insurance company won't cover it.
Okay.
All right, and if somebody breaks in, they steal it, you're
All right.
SOL. All right. Then for display purposes, if you're cheap like me, you just prop it up against something like a book. All right. Or you can get, yeah, I'm kind of cheap.
Well, sorry, it was the jump from like stored in the vault to be like, nah, just whatever.
Yeah, prop it up against a book, you know? So
Okay.
like
All
this
right.
movie, he's not expensive. I have these guys lined up against boxes, you know. So it's just but there are really good ones where you can put in the thing and it's a light underneath it that
Yeah.
rotates around, and you can pick up those too. They're not that much. They're like 20, 30 bucks. But the but propping up against a book is always priceless. You don't have to pay any money.
Fair enough. And
I
then so,
am cheap.
and then so this idea of like keeping things in mint or near mint. One thing that's always been interesting to me is artist signings of cards. Um, is
I
that
wish I would
is
have
that
looked at my collection then, because I have
is that like a
tons of signings.
no-no? Like, because
No.
uh,
That is that's the best thing on the planet right now. So what people don't understand is if you look at a Mark Poole signature, for instance,
mhm.
you have a Mark Poole from 1993, and he signed the card. He signs it different than he does now. Now he has the big giant stuff and that kind of
Oh,
stuff. But if you get a Mark Poole 93, 94, it's Poole. It's just like what it occurs on the artwork. So
hmm.
I'm snagging those up. I guess I should tell your viewers that, but I am actually purging those
Oops, should
because
I bleep beep? Like,
no. You don't have to. You don't have to because a lot of people don't like signed cards. I do
yeah.
because it shows the age of the artist,
Okay,
right? You
interesting.
can actually, yeah, because it actually increases the value the older the signature is. Everybody's signature changes over time, but these artists really didn't think that their art was going to catch on and they would have the signed cards and all that kind of
Right,
stuff. So
right.
that's why they started changing their signature.
Okay. Yeah, we've had, so we've been really fortunate. We've got really amazing artists that have been very supportive of the game. And I was just thinking, for example, at Gen Con, there was a pre-convention kind of dinner that Team Covenant hosted.
Wish I could have
And
gone to
so
that.
Jeff Menges and Drew Tucker were there, and they were drafting cards and joking around. They're like basically like the sweetest, like coolest dudes ever. But they were also signing cards. And of course, you're like, you want to get something signed, and it's a thank you to them, but also a thank you to us. It was a great feel good moment. And then I was like, oh, I wonder, as far as it comes to collectability, how does that, do you try and get like signed sets? Do you do that in the same way that you might pursue, certain editions?
I have a signed set of Arabian. Um, so that I'm
All right,
trying to
now
get
I'm
it.
like, this is bad for me though, because now I'm like, oh, if I have to attend a lot of these events, but maybe do I need to collect too? I'm like, oh, geez.
Yeah. I'm close to a signed set of Beta and Antiquities, but I'm way farther than I was. It's probably going to remain still true for a while. But I could still get the alpha signed Moxes and that kind of stuff. So I may finish it off, or I may just go with the unlimited signed ones that I have.
Okay.
You know, so you can always do a hodgepodge set if you want to, because it is a core set, but you can't hodgepodge at Arabian Nights.
Right. Do you typically like go and find these people in person at conventions? Do you send things out to people? What's your
I've only sent out a few of them because I don't want to get lost in transit.
Right. I get a little nervous about that too.
Right. If I actually can go to the convention and get it signed, then I go to the convention and get it signed. Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Or if I know someone that's going to the convention, I send them with cards.
Fair enough. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, it's been really awesome seeing you unbooster, sorry, on your channel here. As things go forward and we're getting closer to the release of beta, can we expect more content, or
absolutely
are you going to be continuing on with Sorcery?
Yes. I plan to continue to open at least one box of Sorcery, especially all the way up to the beta release a week. So every week there will be an alpha booster box opening. Period. End of story. Whew. So I haven't filmed the one for this week, but that's going to be happening probably after we stop talking. And then, well, actually, no, I got to pick up the kids. Then I'll do that. But
sorry for delaying your schedule for the channel.
Exactly.
Be like,
no worries.
Like,
but then after that, when beta comes out, I do have some plans. I'm hoping Southern Hobby gives me the quantity that I need to do what I need to do, and I'm crossing my finger on that.
Okay.
So because it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that I even get the quantity I've ordered.
Okay.
So, and that's based on what Southern Hobby has stated. So I don't want to say I can't do any pre-orders or anything like that until I know exactly how many I'm going to get. So it should be fun.
Well, and then we don't want to give any personal information away, but it sounds like we have a mutual acquaintance that's not too far from me, and so I'm hoping that someday in the future we'll actually get to play a game together. So as you're pulling cards, you're not just building your collection. I need you to start thinking about decks as well, so that we can get a game in. Okay.
For sure, that's going to happen. But we can say his name. We can say Bob, because I always talk about him on my channel because he's the one who destroyed me with the vampire bats.
I know Legends. Bob up there too, and if it's the same Bob, I'm just gonna lose my mind. So it'd be like, probably
if it's the same Bob, that'd be awesome.
That would be hilarious.
Actually, have you told this Bob about sorcery yet?
Well, I haven't, not too much. We'll talk off.
Oh my gosh! Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. Well, so if people want to see more of your unboxings, obviously go to Unboosting on YouTube. OpenBoosting, sorry.
Yeah.
OpenBoosting on YouTube. And then OpenBoosters.com as well, correct?
Correct.
And and we'll, of course we want to stay more in touch, and we're looking forward to following your open boostering. And maybe
I'll get a curio. You never know.
Oh, you can neither confirm nor deny. I will not comment on such things. But it's been great talking to you, and thanks so much for taking the time to come on.
All right, thank you for having me. It's been great.
All right, thanks everyone for tuning in, and until next time, good luck contesting the realm.